just because a product looks good doesn't mean it's effective in terms of, the consumer understanding what it is. So we handed out some samples. People let us know what they thought, what they tasted. So that gave us a lot of language we could play with in terms of what we put on the packaging. My name is Kerstin Robinson. I'm the co-founder of drinks brand Nix Kix.
And what do you do at Nix Kix?
So I'm obviously one of the two founders of the business, and my role is in finance and marketing. So finance because that's my background. I used to work in the investment banking industry, and marketing because that's my passion. So and my co-founder does sales and operations.
Perfect. So tell us how you got to start Nix Kix. What do you do as a business, and how did it come about?
So, as I said, not really in the drinks industry before. Julia also was in operations before, not anything to do with drinks. And we just spotted a gap in the market. We thought, especially when you're going out, not wanting to drink alcohol, but still wanting something more exciting than water or orange juice, then the options were pretty limited. And we thought, well, we can do better than what's on offer there. And decided to, go for it and make our own product.
And it's quite a jump to go from investment banking to startup world where you're effectively doing everything. So what was that leap like for you?
It was a steep learning curve for sure. And some people would have called us naive because especially when we were talking to people in the drinks industry, they were shocked to find out that we had no background in that whatsoever. But I think that was actually super helpful because we would have seen a lot of hurdles in the way had we been in that industry. And we were told actually by people in the industry as well that they would never start a drinks business. So sometimes being naive and not really knowing what the real way of doing things is might actually be quite beneficial, because then you do it your own way and kind of figure it out along the way. So turned out to be okay for us.
Amazing. And give us an idea of what some of the first sort of steps are. So you come up with the idea for a drinks brand, you know roughly what you want it to look like and taste like and so on. What are the first steps? How do you get this going?
So our first steps were we just made some stuff up in my kitchen, and so that was more like an overnight session. And then next morning we would go to a market and we would let people try the product just to figure out, is there kind of an interest there? Obviously, little did we know that people usually try to be just very kind and nice to you face to face, especially when they know that you're the founder. So actually, it wasn't really the best thing to do in hindsight. But what we did instead was we found a little shop in central London that would just let us have their drink on the shelf. So we could just sit there and observe people and try to figure out who buys the product, what flavors do they like. So just do a bit of consumer research initially, just to understand, is there even an interest there for this type of product? And from then onwards, we figured out, okay, now we knew what flavors they liked, what kind of type of product they like, and then finding a manufacturer and making a smallish production run. And for us, actually, we then went with our properly produced products. We went to the London Coffee Festival and sold our first batch there, and it was quite a big success. And then realized, okay, well, actually, this has probably some feet. Let's just go for it, and then we scaled from there.
And was that the point you thought, right, let's get some investment in and have a real go at this?
So initially, we didn't get investment from outside. We put some money in ourselves, and we also got a startup loan. So that actually lasted for quite some time. Our first branding was like £1,000. Back then, a lot of money for us. In hindsight, tiny amount when you think about what design work actually costs. But so we tried to just live or work very lean. We didn't have an office or anything like that. And really try to stretch this as much as possible, get as much traction as we kind of needed to prove that this was a business that was going to work. And once we had a bit of a customer base, like coffee shops, bars, restaurants, in London, that had a proper resale rate, that we could prove that this product works. It's not just selling it in, it's also, getting consumers to actually pick it off the shelf. At that point, then we got some money in from investors.
And fast forward to today then. So I see sold millions of units now across Europe and the Middle East and wherever else. And I see that you're also just about to really push yourselves out into the States as well with a new distribution deal. So tell us a bit around one, how that distribution deal came about, and two, what are some of the challenges you're anticipating in the States?
Okay, so this distribution deal is actually an amazing deal for us because it is a direct to consumer model. So because we were thinking for a long time we wanted to go to the States because we just realized that just talking to consumers over there. We went actually with there was a UK export mission out to the US as part of a trade show called Expo West. It's one of the biggest food and drinks trade shows in the US. And the feedback over there was amazing. We already got like some deals almost already signed up back then. And but we were pretty cautious because starting with a retailer in the US, it's a lot of investment. It needs proper focus, and not being physically there would have been an absolute nightmare to manage. So actually, then we took a few steps back. Obviously, figured out UK is still our home markets. Obviously, continued there, and then got in touch with someone that was doing purely direct to consumer, just because it's a lot easier. You don't have to then already know from the start what kind of area in the US you want to go into, because it's obviously massive, and consumer tastes are quite different across the states. And that way we can just sell to consumers directly. It would go across the whole of the US, and quite quickly understand who wants or who likes our product. Where do these people live? What type of people are those? And then go from there. So that was the thinking. And also it's not as investment intense then, because retailers over there, they take obviously amazing, like massive fees initially just to get the product off the shelf, on the shelf, sorry. And so not having that allows us to be there, test the market, which we kind of did here as well. That was always our thing. And see where it takes us.
I was going to say, it does sound like a larger scale, more strategic version of what you did when you actually first launched in the UK. And is that what, if people are looking to launch new brands in the UK, is that what they should be doing here at home?
I think so. Yes, exactly. Just test and learn. I think that's still a very good strategy, because you can waste a lot of money. Even like trying to figure out who your target consumer is. You kind of learn that along the way. It's like you have an idea initially. Yeah, you're like, oh well, it's this age group probably, male, female, but you really only know once you start selling the drinks and actually observing people picking it up from the shelf.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much has changed in the business over the past few years in terms of where you're selling, how you're selling, and the size of the business itself. So what's that meant for you personally in terms of your role? How's that evolved over time?
So, I mean, at the beginning, we obviously had to do everything. Now we have a team. We're still small. We're still just about 10 people. But it's nice to still be involved in lots of bits. It's obviously, I said, marketing and finance. These are kind of my main areas. I'm still getting involved in other things as well sometimes. You can still find me sometimes in shops, putting up a display unit, and or going checking out how the store looks, how the shelf looks where a product is placed. So yeah, of course it's changed. I had to focus a bit more, especially now that we also have obviously investors on board and have been through a few fundraising rounds. That always takes a bit of focus in addition to other bits. And our rebrand last year, that was a big thing as well, so I was heavily involved in that. So yeah, it's more like bigger projects now, you could say. Before it was the kind of day-to-day stuff, which I still have to do, unfortunately. Some part of that is still needed, but it's more about a strategic and a more focused stuff. And bigger projects. We're trying to become a B Corp. That's a project in itself. There's lots of good stuff there, and just understanding as well that the focus has to be with the bigger stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to touch a bit on the rebrand. You've just touched on it there, and we were speaking about it right before this call. So for us, and we've been through this as well, so many founders are so in love with the original branding that they've come up with since the beginning, but come to the sense that it may be a little outdated or just needs updating. So how did you finally make that decision that actually you did need a rebrand, and how did you go about that?
So, well, yes, it's true. We did like our previous branding, and and actually, funny enough, when we talked to our customers, like big retail chains, and told them that we're about to rebrand, they were like, "Oh, why would you do that? It looks amazing." But you know, just because a product looks good doesn't mean it's effective in terms of the consumer understanding what it is. And for us, again, we did a very small scale test where we would just stand outside a shop and where we were stocked, and we're handing out samples of a product, just letting people try the drinks, didn't see the packaging or anything. And in hindsight, actually, I'm thinking, wow, how could people even accept that? They had no idea what they were drinking there, but they were still very happy to do it. And so we handed out some samples. People let us know what they thought, what they tasted. So that gave us a lot of language we could play with in terms of what we put on the packaging, because obviously, if the consumer tells you that's what they think, and then they can read that on a pack as well, then that's perfect. That's exactly perfect match. And also then afterwards we told them, so most of them really liked the product, and afterwards we showed them the pack, and they were like, oh, their initial response was like, oh, disappointed. They were like, oh, this, I would have not picked up this product from the shelf. It tastes amazing, but that pack doesn't look good. It doesn't relate. So for us, that was a big light bulb moment where we thought, okay, we have to get things right for the pack. And what didn't come out so much was mostly the taste and taste cues. It's funny that it's a subconscious thing as well. As you can't just put great taste on the product, in letters and hope that people then believe, "Ooh, this must be great tasting." It's more than that. So, we put some visuals on it. Now you can actually find pictures of the ingredients on it. Tidied it up more. Cut down on the language. Just rearranged a few things. And yeah, now we already see it's obviously been not early days, but I mean we launched in October. And but we can already see that it had an impact on sales as well. So it did make a difference, but yeah, it was a process for sure.
And I know you spoke to a number of individuals or companies to help you with the rebranding, and you mentioned beforehand that it took a while to find the right company to take this forward. So any advice there for founders that are looking for an agency or a consultancy to help them with something that's similar?
Oh wow, yes. You just had the just for me it was, in the end, it was just the feeling. I just knew that they get it. But that's difficult then. How do you actually measure that? You just need to get on with them. You have to have proper chats about how they would do it. We had initial strategy session as well with our designers, which really helped to get us all onto the same page. Because the problem often is that you say something and they say, yeah, we get it. And they might even say it back to you. And you're like, okay, that sounds, you probably got what we thought. And then they would come back with this new branding work that they did. And it looks nothing like you wanted it to look like. I mean, I've been through this a few times, and it's very disappointing. And it's kind of difficult then to come back with feedback that is, because it's, they did that. And it's obviously, yeah, difficult. So if you just sit down, have a proper strategy session, check, what do you like, what do you not like in terms of other products out there. And as I said earlier, you got to really have done, like we did, the kind of testing phase where you really understand, this language that this consumer gave us, that is actually on pack right now. They came up with the word zing. They said, oh, this tastes zingy. Now we have the word zing on the pack. On the front. And you basically, when you go to an agency, I feel like you have to have already quite a lot of work done, and don't expect them to do all the work. Yeah, that as well.
Interesting that you are literally using the customer's language then to really bring it to life. So you've gone through the rebranding, you are all set for the US. What are the big goals for the company over the next 12 months or so?
So yeah, of course, just coming out of COVID, that's a big thing. It's amazing to see that hospitality is coming back. For us, we have always had a very diversified customer model. So in terms of, we obviously in retail, which has been great, e-commerce as well, but then also quite a big chunk of our customer base is in hospitality, casual dining. Where Nando's, for example, launched during lockdown. We haven't really seen a lot of, sales come through that one. So just like seeing basically how things come back and just start to flourish again. I'm really looking forward to that. We've got a big distributor now on board as well in the on-trade, Matthew Clark, that opens loads of doors into that channel. So that's going to be really exciting. We also have got more of a focus now on the convenience channel, because we've already got quite a few case studies, and we're launching with a big customer in the summer there. And so the UK is still a very important market for us, and still, there's a lot there to do. And we're also launching in Germany, which is very close to, because Julia and I are from Germany originally, so it's just a nice little thing for us. Just continue to grow.
Perfect. It sounds like such an exciting time within the business. So for those listening, where can they find out more about Nix and Kix?
Well, you could go to our website, which is nixandkix.com.